Good. All right, it is 7 o'clock. We will call the July 8th Board of Education regular meeting to order. This meeting is being in compliance with our Open Meetings Act, a copy of which is right there on the wall. And with that, let's take roll.
Jason Arp.
Here.
Cassie Plessner.
Here.
Chase Gradville.
Here.
Brian Locker.
Here.
Matt O'Daniel.
Here.
Shannon Moore.
All right.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, agenda item 1.4 is approve the regular meeting agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Zach. Thank you, Matt and Jason. Moving to second. Any discussion? Let's vote.
Sorry, I'm catching up.
You're good.
Matt O'Daniel.
Yes.
Shannon Moore.
Yes.
Jason Arp.
Yes.
Cassie Plessner.
Yes.
Chase Gradville.
Yes.
Brian Locker.
Yes.
Motion carries. Agenda item number 2, welcome to Gadsden Public Forum. Everybody is here to speak, and it looks like we have FBLA folks here with the report out from Nationals, so I will turn it over to you folks.
You can just stand up there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No.
Thanks.
Go ahead, whenever you'd like, yeah. If you can introduce yourself, that would be awesome.
So I'm Kevin Flexner. I'm Braxton Stoll. I'm Joe Burns. I'm Chef Kozer. And as you guys know, we have 3 CTSOs in this school, FBLA being one of them, and we just attended the National Leadership Conference in Orlando. We had 13 qualifiers that went, and Mrs. Koger went as well. And so we kind of prepared you guys a little bit of something that has some pictures, that has some thank yous, because we wouldn't have been able to go without you guys' help. Does somebody want to introduce some of the events?
So at the awards and recognition, the people that we had placed in different things, Kevin got the Who's Who scholarship at Nationals, which was $500, right?
The
The Distinguished Business Leader Scholarship. Yeah. And then me, Josh, and Kevin placed second in esports. Gus and Joe finaled in business management, top 15. And then our chapter got the champion chapter award.
This is, sorry to stop you guys. We're hearing more about esports in the state of Nebraska. Can you guys kind of talk about that competition a little bit?
So for our esports competition, it's a little bit different than just a regular esports competition. We did the gameplay before we ever went to nationals.
Okay.
We got third in that, and then at nationals, we submitted a report and a presentation, which was then judged and combined with our gameplay score, which got us second.
And who determined, do you play multiple games or is it a certain game?
It's a tournament match.
It was a tournament match of Rocket League. This is one.
Got it, yeah. I don't know what the game is, but okay.
It's like soccer with cars.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
This was the pilot of the event, so it was.
Okay, so the first time they've done esports. Okay. Got it.
So I got a question. If you were talking to somebody that's maybe in middle school right now and they asked you what the benefits were to joining and participating in FBLA throughout high school, what would you tell them?
Well, not only does it have focuses on business, obviously being in the name, future business leaders, but also at Nationals they had things about like college preparation. So what you can do to stack your high school courses that will look best towards college,
and have a better college outcome in the end.
Mhm.
Not only college, but career as well. It doesn't have to be in just business. FBLA has many different events and many different workshops you can attend. Business is an event. They have a few ag things, not just FFA has ag, FBLA does too. Obviously, you have your business events. You have some information technology events. It has a plethora of different benefits for kids, and FBLA is just awesome, in my opinion. So.
They're a little biased.
Plethora? That's good. Thank you.
Hey Trent, how much money did you make off of your pins this year?
$160.
What are,
Tell us
enlighten the rest of the board
Yeah.
the context.
So have them turn to that page so they can see.
This is
Okay.
Is there one? Okay, so the big cow right there, that would be Nebraska's pin this year. I designed it using Canva. Each state and or country, because like Canada, China also all competes at this nationals, have their own that you can trade with other people. And some people are also willing to buy them from you. So that's how I made money.
So is that how Jack's tie has like a lot on his? Those are all, okay, so
Yeah.
flip back. Get all of these points.
Got it.
So it's a great way for kids to network and walk up to people and introduce themselves and meet them. But each state has their own pin, and Arlington, our chapter's been in charge of the pins since Nebraska started doing it. So we look for ideas, and this year's was quite popular. We sold 3,600 before we went to the conference.
Oh my
3,600
gosh.
pins.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
That would be 150 pounds, by the way, because they were shipped to the hotel ahead of time.
Holy cow.
How much was it? $75 worth of shipping for both one box? And there was
But fun fact, the hotel didn't tell me they were gonna charge me shipping.
Oh,
And so then I went to pay it, and then he was having trouble with my credit card, and he said, I'm pretty sure it went through, but when I got home, it didn't, so
okay.
we didn't pay for the pin.
So your profit margin just went up.
Yeah.
Good
I
job.
saw on Facebook that someone from out of state posted about how their daughter got a Nebraska pin. And yeah, it's a deal.
It's a collector.
Nice.
So now we gotta come up with something better to top it. Trent's already developing some ideas.
Well, awesome.
So thank you guys for letting us.
Good job.
Absolutely. Yeah, congratulations.
You all and Mrs. Coger too. Thanks for all you do.
Thank you for spending your birthday.
Always.
Yeah. It is
Where did
really
you
not.
eat at your birthday tonight, this year, Shauna?
That was the opening session, so there was no
Oh.
food to be had. We ate the day before and pretended that was my birthday.
No Hard Rock Cafe this year, huh?
Shake Shack.
Oh, maybe the Chocolate Emporium. Yeah, that's where we had our dessert.
There you go.
And I think there's a picture of maybe Joe with
There
his
is,
yeah.
milkshake at
Yeah,
the
there
Chocolate
is.
Emporium.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Very
How was it good?
It was good.
Okay.
Worth all $18.
I
wouldn't say that, you know.
You can't put a price on happiness.
Good job.
Chocolate is
Yeah.
I do have one question for you guys. So I don't care who answers, if you answer, it doesn't matter. So when you guys go to nationals, you have to win state or second in state, or
Yeah.
what do you, like, when you guys win, how many competitions did you compete in, and what did that all entail?
So you have to be top 3 at an event at state. And then you can only go in one individual event.
Okay.
But then, like, American Enterprise counts as a chapter event. So I went in 2 events. Joe also went in 2 events. And then Kevin's Who's Who went, and then he went in another event as well.
Okay.
So you guys could explain the events you went. I know we said Joe was social media strategy, or we said Joe was business management, but Braxton, yours is a little different. You can tell them what your event was.
So I competed in database design and application, which is pretty much Microsoft Access and how to use Access and business.
Okay, so basically it works on the same kind of principle as like FFA, is basically what you're telling me.
Yep.
All right, okay, good.
Some states do, the nationals will allow the top 4 to go, but Nebraska has limited it to the top 3. So you have all states there, and like they said, China, Canada,
Tanzania, Puerto Rico.
Department of Defense schools in Europe.
Hmm.
So So a lot of those states have 4 competitors, so there's several hundred in every competition when they do get there. And there was about 16,000 at the conference overall, 16,000 people. So just for an example, when I went in high school, and I won't say how long that was, there were 5,000 at the national conference.
So is it held in Orlando every year?
No, it
It
rotates.
rotates.
It
So
rotates.
next year it'll be Anaheim.
Oh, Anaheim, okay.
And then anyone know where after that?
Is it Utah?
No, that's 2 more.
San
San
Antonio.
Antonio.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes the younger kids keep track of the whole 4-year cycle.
I had my 4 years playing.
That's why I was just wondering, you know, when they do that, because I know like FFA tries to hold it every year somewhere in the Midwest, you know, like they've been in Indianapolis for the last few years, they were in Kansas City before that. I didn't know how they did it, so that's fine. Sounds good. I'm glad they went. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well done.
Very good. Thank you all for being here, appreciate it.
Yes.
You can stay for the meeting if you'd like.
Yeah, if you don't want to, you can exit too, we won't. Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you, Shauna.
Don't forget your phone keys.
Yeah.
All right. Gene, did you have any comments you wanted to make tonight?
Nope, I'm just here to listen.
Gotcha, sounds good. All right, moving on, we'll go to agenda item number 3, the consent agenda. Attached, you will see minutes from the previous board meeting. You'll also see the monthly financials. I want to just highlight a couple things. On the check register, you'll see some gutter repairs. We've been getting a lot of rain, as everybody's kind of knows, so we were cleaning up a few gutters that were just not draining as they should. Dr. Lewis emailed the board on the demo prep, which you'll see on there as well. Did you say something, Dr. Lewis?
Nope, I just said yes.
Okay, sorry. You'll also see a Regal Awards on there, signed by the competition gym. That was to update our conference schools, those signs that you previously saw draped in the gym, and then some other awards, district championships, state championships, those things, to bring those updated. It had been quite a long time since those have been updated. And then the last thing I wanted to highlight was you'll see correction on the special building fund from May. Dr. Lewis, can you remind me on that? I don't want to be wrong on that.
Yes, it was just stated as that $192,000 payment was coming out of the bond, but actually coming out of the special building fund, and the check came out of the correct account out of the bank. It just got notated in the wrong fund here, so that was corrected. So I just pulled that up so you can see that on here. So we've got updated now, and the balances out of those ending bank statements are correct. It was just a matter of moving it from here to here where it should have come out of, and that was the final payment for the scoreboards and the installation.
Got it. Thank you.
So this one here, Dr. Lewis, is updated, this one.
Yes,
has
this
to be
one,
updated.
we
For
Jen
June.
attached the May one that was updated, and then this June one is accurate now too. So those balances, I gotta turn my brightness up a little bit. So those balances are as accurate as they can be, reconciled at the end of June there, or with our statements coming in. So yes, it looks like 640,000 in the special building fund, 505,000 in the bond fund, 396,000 in QC Puff, and then your total special building funds there with the CD. So
Matt, I'll turn to you, see if you wanted to highlight anything or anything that you saw.
Yeah, you hit on a couple things. Obviously, someplace in here is also the transfer that we do every year. The budget committee's recommended this transfer every year. It's a different number this year, and that's later on in our. Or did I see that on the agenda?
yeah, it's action item. It's not on the financials yet, it'll be on the next month.
Out of my mouth, and let you talk, Jason.
No. It's fine, and it would be, yeah, a good time to talk about that anyway, because that'll probably look like, because it was board approved, it'll probably look like hand payable, so we'll probably just write the check and move it over without having to approve it next month. So you'll see that pop on there next month.
And I'll just add, when you scroll down, you're on the visa is very large this month. It typically is in June and July just because of all of the orders, so. It's basically all the supplies for this next school year for classrooms and
Sure.
all of those good things.
Anybody else have any questions, or anything they saw?
One thing I'll just point out too, this you can correct me if I'm wrong on this one too, Jen, I believe we're at 83% of the school year of our bills are out, so, or of our budget expenditures, so there's 2 months left. So if you want to balance that with where we are in disbursement wise at 83% of the year, we're at 74% total of our budget dispersed. So we're sitting in a pretty good place. We know we'll have a couple more big bills coming with the floors being refinished and the HVAC units being set, but we're in good shape as far as staying within our budget of expenditures on the year.
Perfect. All right, with that, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Thank you, Cass. If we move to second, is there any other discussion or questions? Okay, let's go to the vote.
And no more. Chase Nark,
Yes.
Cass Plesner,
Yes.
Chase Creditor.
Yes.
Ryan Locker.
Yes.
Ryan O'Day.
Yes.
Motion carries. Agenda item number 4, Dr. Lewis.
Yep, so the first thing on there is just to talk with the board about the back to school barbecue that we've done the past couple of years. The date on that, if you guys want to look at your calendars, looking at that Friday date, so school will begin on the 13th. We'll have in-services beginning with new teacher orientation on August 7th, and then we'll have teachers on the 8th and the 9th and the 12th, if I did that math right in my head. So this back to school barbecue would be on the 9th, which is the Friday in-service date that we have. Talked a little bit with the finance committee, I think when we met, just brought it up briefly to see what would work. The first year we held it at my place. Last year we held it out at Bruce Shears at the barn that he has out there. So if anybody else wants to throw out their thoughts, maybe the consensus in that small committee conversation was that it might be nice to have a little bit closer. And it's a lot of work to get somebody's place ready for it. So maybe one of the buildings in town, but I think what Matt and Chase were talking about that, Jason too, right?
Yep. Either of those.
So kind of put the 9th on your calendars. We're to be determined location. If anyone else has some good ideas or would want to host it at their place, let me know and we can make that happen.
It's quiet in here. We talked,
room of mine.
we talked about possibly the Ryman building, the auditorium. If we could just get it for the, we only need it for a couple hours in the afternoon. So I'm sure there's something in there that evening. Have you reached out to anybody yet, Dr. Lewis?
Yep, I was gonna wait until we had here and see if anybody else had any ideas or objections and just let me know. And then I will take some time to make some phone calls in the next couple of days.
Okay.
I feel like the auditorium would be a good option. It's close, they have enough space.
Yeah.
They have a kitchen.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think, no, I agree.
I mean, I throw out my place, but I'm not cleaning for you, sorry.
You bring that.
Well, and I'm gonna inquire if there's fees associated with any of those. Sometimes for the school, they say no, but sometimes they just want a regular
Yeah.
fee of a good charge. So I'll find that out too, and I will report back to you guys and let you know.
Good.
And we like to have as many board members there as possible. So yeah, I'm gonna just pencil it in on your calendars and see if it works out for you. Okay, NERCS and NASB reports are attached there, so you can read those. Your guys' picture, the board of Arlington in the NERCS report, as when Jack Moles came last month and visited us, so kind of featured a photo of you and talked about his goal to attend a board meeting of all of our member schools. So that's kind of fun if you want to scroll through that. It's, I think, near the last third of his report there or something. So that was fun to see in there. You guys are all, you're very photogenic. It's a great picture of y'all. And then our admin schedule for the rest of July. I'll be back next week. Actually, I will be back Thursday evening, but Jen and I are going to an alley safety workshop and Friday in Lincoln, which works out pretty good anyway, because Jen sent out an update that we won't have power in the building on Friday. Is that right, Jen?
That's correct.
So, and then, so I'll be back like normal, next Monday, the 15th, but I am still available for phone calls, emails, and things like that. The rest of the team, Aaron, and James and Jackie and Tasha, trying to take their time off here in July. Aaron's got a trip planned with his wife, and I know everybody's doing some vacationing and traveling, but kind of our call back to duty is admin days typically, and so we'll get together and go to administrative days in Kearney, the 23rd or the 24th-ish through, like 25th or 26th. It's just a couple of days that we're there. The conference is Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday morning, but we usually come back on Thursday evening. And then everybody pull back to school full-time on August 1st, so that's what you, I think everybody would say if you need somebody, they're available with phone and email as much as they can be during that time, but that's just what you can expect for the rest of the summer there. And the last thing I have to report is our Rule 10 school safety audit. Kevin Cavan came and he and Ashley and I sat down, and then he and Officer Ashley went through the buildings, and so we got this report out of that. So the first one, it's open so I know which one I'm looking at. You can just kind of read through them. So they're super easy to read. If you see yeses, that's all good, all good. And then some blue were some comments I believe that that Kevin Cavan added to with his comments. I came back in after the fact and added a few comments, but lots and lots of positives there. Nothing that we haven't heard before. Like here, there's a couple of things, the hard corners, the safe corners, which is where they want you to be out of sight. Make sure they're not cluttered with desks or cabinets that prevent students from quickly moving to those areas. And I believe the note here was because new classrooms have cupboards built into the hard corner of the room. And so that was not something that we intended. And so we'll have to work around that. And then Deputy Jenkins commented that students and staff were able to remain out of sight even in those rooms. So it would not be ideal that you would have cupboards or cabinets in those corners, but Officer Jenkins indicated that it wasn't an issue when we conducted our drills. Classrooms with pass-through connecting doors are able to secure those doors. You kind of gave us a neutral there because that's the part of the grant, the school safety grant that we applied for that was funded. And then I had to go into the GMS when we realized what they were going to approve for us and amend the application. So I got the approval on that today. So we are ready to start getting our ducks in a row to work on that project and knowing that we'll get reimbursement for that. Exits and lighting, all good. Communication, we're still, we had a conversation about how some of our classrooms can't hear PA announcements. Those are music bands, industrial tech rooms, primarily because it is so loud in those classrooms, just with the content of or the courses that they're taught there, that it's just hard to hear if somebody is saying something over the speaker for example, when you're directing the band. And so Kevin had some ideas about maybe putting like an alert light that lets somebody in the classroom know visually that somebody is trying to say something, so they can, so a bright like strobing noticeable light, so that if somebody is trying to make contact with somebody in a room, that is possible. And he gave us some ideas about some vendors who are willing to do that for a relatively reasonable price for them at Fremont. And so we'll probably look into that as well. Main office, communicating effectively with industrial ag tech, that's where we're at there too. And then band and vocal. So those are basically the same things there. Alarm system is in proper working. That was a non-applicable one, not a big deal. Cameras are in proper working condition. And so our cameras that we have all work. Some of them are better than others, but we don't have 30 days of storage. We have 8 days of storage, about 7 to 8 days. So if something happens and somebody doesn't come up and ask to see a video or make us aware that something had happened until past, after that point, we can't go back and see it. That is also something that we wrote into that grant that did not get funded, and we would like to add some more coverage. We know that too. So we'd like to have better coverage of like the farther ends of the parking lot and at the football storage shed and the football field and some things like that. And then we'd like to upgrade the cameras that are kind of grainy. Some of them are really, really good, and some of them are not that good anymore. So we'll keep talking to the finance committee about some ways to do that. Now school safety can be included in a different fund, whereas before it all had to come out of the general fund. Now we have some more options. So we will talk about that a little bit. That was probably $40,000 to $50,000 of the grant that we asked for was in upgrading the cameras, and that storage cost a bit to update the storage that we have on those. Other than that, a couple of things about signage and people signing in. Those are easy things to correct. And everything is good in our storage and receiving areas there. Emergency protocols all look good. We did miss one fire drill last year. So what we do is we schedule those throughout the year. So we're supposed to have 10 per year. And my guess is it was a weather-related conflict, or sometimes, if Officer Judkins kind of runs those drills, and so she may have had an emergency that had to pull her away or something like that. So we did miss one last year that didn't get made up. We might have even been planning to school, but we all know how that last week of school went. It was a little bit crazy. So we'll be more careful. We only instead of our 10, but they all went well. Everybody knows the drill, literally. So we're in good shape. We've got a lot of good things happening. We don't have an awful lot of corrections to make. And again, these are suggestions. They're not, you have to do this. They don't come with a deadline. It's not like the Department of Health coming in and saying, if you don't do this, we'll shut down your hot lunch or whatever. So we're in a good place here. You can read some comments at the end too as you scroll through this. And it's just a nice summary of the building and summary of some suggestions and then a disclaimer. Then I'm going to quick scroll to the top and pull up the other one as well. And these are about policies in our emergency operating procedures, which we approved. It was maybe March or April. We approved our EOP and submitted that to the state. So this is the checklist pertaining to that, the continuity of the operations and the emergency operation plan and our safe schools trainings and all of those things too. So you can look through that checklist. The only thing we're missing there is a full scale unification drill. We've been gradually working our way there. Last year, we were able to get as far as teachers walking through the reunification drill, but it takes a lot of coordination to get all of the students to participate in a reunification drill. So we'll have to talk with Officer Judkins about seeing if we can't make that happen, this school year. Everything is looking good here, on our buses. And then just a summary of that too. So overall, it was a really good report. You know, there's a lot of information in there and you might not have read it through really in detail yet, but does anybody have any questions about those?
Don't see any, Dr. Lewis.
Sounds good. Okay.
Perfect. We will go to agenda item number 5, committee and representative reports. Finance committee met July 1st. We kind of went over, everyone got their valuations in the mail by now. We kind of got conflicting information. As everybody knows, I don't know a single person whose evaluation was down as compared to last year. However, when we got information from the assessor's office, they were saying countywide they were down, which didn't really jive with what we were seeing. So Dr. Lewis reached out to them again, and I think they kind of realized, yeah, we gave you the wrong information. So that has since been corrected, and they've given us updated preliminary information, nothing that's certified yet. So now that we have that, we will meet again to get a really good idea of what the budget looks like, what the levy is looking like. However, I think we're comfortable to say, Dr. Lewis, that we were going to be at a neutral levy or maybe just a little bit under.
Yeah, that's our goal, is to keep it there. I mean, there is potential that it could go down a cent or two with how we've got the budget built right now. And it kind of depends, you know, on a couple of things. If we want to add a penny to levy in QCPUF for that school safety, those things that we just got done talking about, or if we even need to when we're finished with that QCPUF payment, because we've only got one more payment on that we don't need to levy for. The other thing that we want to talk about too is this, we still have access to that 6% additional. So I took some pictures of the LC2 before I left this morning, so I made sure I said this right. So, because what this is it's in your non-bond funds. So this would be a combination of what we're allowed to ask for in taxes in our general fund and our special building fund, only those two funds combined. So our 3% growth based on what we spent last year was $7,038,389. And then we have the ability to access with a vote of 5 out of our 6 board members, the additional 6% beyond that. So I will tell you, I mean, we don't have a budget sitting in front of you to look at or anything like that, but 3 cents shifted out of QCPUF and into the general fund because our general fund grew the most this year, just with basically with the cost of paying people and paying for their benefits. Excuse me for just 1 minute. There's somebody at my door.
Okay.
I'm sitting in a hotel room, so that is strange. I'm gonna put it on mute and I will be right back. Chase, if you want to talk about that just a second, and I'll be right there.
Yeah, and Matt, I should let you start it. You lead that committee. My apologies on that.
No problem.
Confusing deal.
Very confusing.
We could have a neutral budget, or we could lower the levy and still very likely have to take a vote to access that additional tax request, given what the rules and laws are on what funds account for that percentage increase. And the transfer out or the QCPUF dropping off, that impacts that. So it's kind of a strange deal. We may be in a situation where our levy is completely what it was last year, or we lower it 1 cent, 1 or 2 cents, but we still have to take a vote to assess additional tax request authority based upon those two accounts.
The growth of the general fund mostly.
Yes.
And, you know, almost everything in that general fund is the result of the negotiation session this year where we included 100% benefits for all the certificated staff, plus an increase in their wages, you know, it's personnel costs. I mean, that is, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's gotta be 80% or more of the increase.
82% of our budget tends to be personnel costs. So that's salaries and related costs. It's not just salaries, but it's every cost related to it. It's our share of retirement, it's benefits, it's FICA, it's all of those. Anything that's a 100 or 200 code, Jen knows that's what the budget ends up being. So, yeah.
So what Chase is saying is exactly accurate. And really, until we get certificated or the certified valuations in place, you know, it's hard to know we don't know exactly what.
Or really can't, we really can't make about it until you get certified of what you know you got for numbers. Then we can move on from there, but so what, you gotta remind me again, on this 6%, that 6% is that, all right, excuse my French, but, I mean, I'm not gonna say anything, but.
You haven't said you French yet.
No, I haven't yet, but when we voted on that 6% back when we did that,
Yeah.
so it's a 3-year deal, correct? Or
We
how
have to
was
vote
that
for it
set up?
again.
Huh?
Yeah, they clarified that we have to vote for it again.
We have to vote for it again.
We have to vote for it again, and what I can tell you right now is it doesn't matter where our valuations come in, that number doesn't change. The levy changes, but that dollar amount doesn't change based on what our certified valuations are, if they're higher or lower. That number is what it is, and our budget kind of is what it is too. It'll be easier to really talk about that in detail when we have the budget workshop before the August board meeting, but just know that we'll probably need to access a share of that 6% again on how the budget is built right now, and it'd be really hard for me to take anything out of the budget. This 6% vote does not hinge certified valuations at all. Does that make sense?
So you're saying not only can be used in the general and the, what else did you say?
Special building.
Okay.
Yeah, so in other words, it doesn't, our evaluations could have gone up 200%, and it would have made a dang difference about the need to vote to access the additional.
No, we can drop our levy to 25 cents and we would still need this vote.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. I mean,
Yeah.
it does, but on paper it does, but logically it doesn't.
It is, yeah. Whatever.
So,
I'm not gonna say anything because then we're on tape. Okay,
yeah, so we'll meet again here. We have a meeting on the books next,
Monday,
yeah,
week from today.
next week.
Yep.
We have a
We'll
little
meet next
more
Monday.
narrowed down information from the assessor's office now. So Dr. Lewis and Jen will be able to build a more accurate budget for us to get in the ballpark of where we're gonna be. So, but then we just wanted to update the board on kind of where everything's at, so.
Any more questions about that? Yeah, it was a good thing.
I don't see any.
No. Okay, and then just in the professional development sharing, I spent a couple of days in Lincoln in early June, the last board meeting, but between now and then, at the legislative advocacy workshop. And so what that did basically is it gave me an overview and a really, really big binder that's more in detail about kind of the history of our unicameral and kind of the inner workings and the hows and the whys and the whats. And then the second day everybody attending was assigned a bill, and we either had to prepare a statement or testimony to the legislators for or against that. So it was a great workshop to learn a lot about the unicameral, and it was really good to get you more comfortable with preparing a proper statement, a proper testimony for senators to hear, and to kind of get comfortable in that role as we advocate for what our schools need. So that was a really, really good workshop about that. So.
Thank you.
And then finally, the activities co-op ad hoc met.
Yeah, so we did meet, and we have a policy draft attached as well as an appendix. Mr. Shada, first kind of went around and he reached out to 14 different districts on what they do, for what they offer for NSAA sanctioned sports, what they do, trains, what fall, winter, and spring sports they have in general. It's a lot of really good information, I thought, and just for everybody's reference, those school districts were Syracuse, Greenview, Plattsmouth, Louisville, West Point, Oakland, Malcolm, Utan, North Bend, Tacoma, Conestoga, Wahoo, Fort Calhoun, and then Ralston. Just looked at all the offerings just to see kind of where we stand. And I want to give everybody kind of an overview, because I think it's good to see, everybody always wonders what other schools are offering, how competitive Arlington is with their athletics. So NSAA offers a total of 17 sports, and that is including male and female counterparts such as golf. So those are counted in the 17. They're not counted as one, if you will. And Arlington offers 70% of all NSAA sanctioned sports. On that list of surveyed schools, only one school district offered more, and that was Ralston, which is a little bit bigger than we are, and obviously in Omaha Metro there. But every other school on that list, we actually offer more NSAA sports than anybody else on that particular list. So I thought it just gave a really good picture of where we stand and the offerings we have for a Class C school. And I thought we were really comfortable in the offerings we currently have and students have here. And we kind of drafted a policy according to that, with a lot of the lift and discretion creative team and the athletic director if they want to bring a new co-op opportunity to the board. But as you'll see in the policy, the board is never going to bring up that opportunity. We will listen, as we have done in the past, on other co-op opportunities, and then go accordingly. But I'm going to stop there. Matt or Cass, if you wanted to add anything.
Yeah, we tried to, our discussion was to develop a policy to change the requests to the office rather than to the board. And if after a lot of discussion, the AD or the admin team or the superintendent feels like it'd be a good match for our school, then, they could bring it to a board meeting, the board would take action on. And I'll just second what Chase says. James did a lot of work in determining how we look compared to other schools. And I, for one, was pretty surprised that our offerings, and we know we offer a lot for our kids, but we really do compared to these other schools around. And, it's important. These co-ops, they cost money. Sometimes they make sense based on participation. Some years they don't. I don't think we want to be in and out of sports based on participation. But if a sport loses its popularity or participation in our school, we need to reserve the right to say this just doesn't make sense anymore, and this gives the admin team a chance to review it annually. Dr. Lewis, is there anything you want to add?
No, I think we kind of had the draft policy out to the committee before, and we made some changes that made it make more sense. Yeah, and we took an in-depth look at what we're offering, which is maybe a good practice that we haven't really done. I mean, we look at our own sports. We haven't really created that list so everybody can see everything, which is Appendix B, which is attached there. I'll pull up in a minute, but I think, it was pretty telling because we know we have a lot, but just to see the variety of schools that were on there, and some of them quite a bit bigger than ours and some of them smaller, and see what we offer in terms of what everybody else is doing. It was pretty good. It was good for us to look at that.
Agreed.
I'm gonna, I'll go ahead and,
So if everybody likes language on this, this would probably come to the board for a first vote next month,
right,
okay? Anybody have any issues with the policy, language in the policy, or further discussions about it? Okay. I think everybody on the board is in agreement that the policy will work.
we just have to develop appendix A yet, which is the form that will require people to fill out when they want us to take a look at something.
Yeah.
Alright, sounds good.
Yeah, the only other thing I would add real quick, Mr. Shada has reached out to individuals that recently spoke to the board about having a co-op. That has been taken care of for this year's. You'll notice in the policy that'll be reviewed annually, probably around the same time. So that has been done for this year and taken care of with those interested.
Yes.
All right.
When Mr. Shada was calling around, are there other districts that have this similar policy in place?
It's a great question.
Yeah. Mhm.
So, most all of them had no formal plan at all, had no formal policy. Two of them indicated they reviewed yearly, Shannon. However, not a formal policy. They just, yeah, we do it yearly, but they didn't have any more details. So I would say we are by far gonna be one of the very few school districts and the ones that will have a formal policy, whatever.
But I think they also said, when you come up with something, let us see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know,
Well, that, I'm surprised that other districts don't already have.
yeah.
Yeah, and that was actually, I think that was my email to the superintendent. Students worked with ADs conference, but the superintendents were the ones that replied to me and said, nope, no policy, nope. So, yeah,
And
it was unusual. I expected one or two of them,
Right.
but yeah, I'd like to see what we come up with.
And a third of them said they only review them when they're asked.
Sure.
By a member of the public, yeah. But none of them had a formal policy. It's a good question. All right, agenda item number 6, new business. Discuss, consider, and take necessary action to approve changes to handbooks as detailed. Dr. Lewis, I'll turn this over to you because there's a lot here.
There's a lot here, but the most important things, and you can go page by page through all of those handbooks that are attached. But the most important ones are the handbook updates, just these couple of first attachments here, because the others are the actual handbooks that we've got attached to those. So in the 24-25 handbook updates here, this is the report that Mr. Fingston said. So this applies to the middle school, high school parent handbook, and then the staff. There's only going to be one staff handbook. There's no sense in having an elementary and a secondary staff handbook. One school, one team, one staff. So on his, you'll see some dates updated, table of contents updated some staff names. The district calendar updated, the final bell times, and then we did update some language pertaining to student absences as required by new law on page 19, which specifies physical and mental illness. And we updated the tardy language to match current practice, and then updated student appearance language to match board policy 5101, which is the tribal regalia, and that came out of legislature this year as well. So those are his student slash parent handbook updates. Then staff handbooks were just updated, basically clerical things, dates, contents, staff district calendar, final spells, and then removed progress report dates. And they're now all listed as to be determined. It's hard to put those dates in there on progress reports because sometimes our school doesn't cooperate the way we want it to. And so if you miss a deadline, it's just easier to make them to be determined. So progress reports will tend to go out midterm. So those are the high school and the staff handbook. And then the elementary student handbook updates. Similar to Mr. Nixon's I'm gonna make that just a little bigger. Dates, Board of Education members and contact information, staff information changes, updated calendar. Student absences to include physical and mental illness, tribal, the new language there from that as well. Tribal in addition of letter G, page 41, in the elementary handbook. I don't think that was present in every board. Clothing and accessories. It's not promote racial, violent, socially offensive symbols or language. And we didn't continue that in the elementary handbook, but we did have a couple of instances past couple of years where students, younger and younger, are wearing, they might not even know the innuendos in some of their clothing, but the adults do. And so we felt like we needed to add that to the elementary student handbook as well. And the rest of them are just the actual handbooks. The coach sponsor one is on here as well. Mr. Shader redlined that, but he said that there were no substantial changes. There's not a list of coaches in there or anything like that too, but you can scroll the changes were, he did not create a nice notated list like this, but they were minimal, just clerical things as well.
Thank you, Dr. Lewis. There's a lot there. Those update pages not about a lot. And I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the changes to the 2024-2025 handbooks as detailed.
I'll second. Thank you, Matt. And thank you, Brian. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All right, let's vote.
Chase North,
Yes.
Cassie,
Yes.
Chase Credible.
Yes.
Brian Walker.
Yes.
Adam Daniel,
Yes.
Janet Marcus.
All right, motion carries. Agenda item 6.2, discuss, consider, and take necessary action to improve the transportation. Jen or Dr. Lewis, I'll turn it over to one of you who would like to talk about this.
Jen is really, really great at explaining this sheet that she's attached here for that. But this is her handiwork. She's tracking this vehicle by vehicle, year by year. So I'm going to kind of turn that over to her and have her kind of explain to you how we calculate that rate, our operating cost per mile.
It's pretty straightforward. I've tried to keep it, I've tried to simplify it over the years. This used to be pretty lengthy and lots of papers, and there's lots of information that you guys really didn't need. So basically, just looking at the end column on the far right is the current, within last year's school year, the 23-24 school year. So you can see how we've obviously gone up in fuel costs since 5 years ago, but I think with the addition of it being at the bus barn has helped a little more, because we're not constantly running to get fuel by using fuel to go get fuel. So I think that has helped. We did take quite a few vans this year to go to certain events, so that on the gas, looking back 2 years.
Yes, it's fuels.
Yeah, so I think that the fuel tank was definitely a good thing. Miscellaneous expenses, that is just a lot of the DOT physical supplies,
Training, level 1 courses.
training,
things like that.
just kind of all the things that kind of go into transportation. So that's pretty consistent. The 2021 school year, I think that was when we had to buy some of the stuff for COVID that we had to do, and obviously that was up so much. The repairs and services obviously was a little more this year. We did have some bigger expenses on the repair side. We've had some buses that are starting to get a little bit old. They have needed a little bit more repair. I will say, our mechanic is there more frequently, and so I think that is also probably we're actually catching some things that have needed to be fixed for a few years, and now those things are starting to get fixed. So the depreciation obviously is just the depreciation of the newest. That number is included in getting cost per mile, that $1.17. If that number gets taken out of there, it drops that operating cost down to about 78 cents
Mhm.
per mile. So, I kept it in there because obviously you probably want to see the real figures. Total miles, pretty consistent with
It's
what we
crazy how
had.
consistent that is.
Yes.
But
And our salaries were down a little bit, so that's good too, even though those things, I think with the things that were a little bit higher, it just kind of keeps it. So, I mean, we've been pretty steady with what our cost is per mile.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Yeah. No, thanks, Jen. I think that's pretty straightforward. Unless anybody has any questions. Okay. I'll make a motion to approve transportation report as presented.
second,
Thank you, Jason. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Let's vote.
Cassie Clausen.
Yes.
Chase Petterville.
Yes.
Ryan Locker.
Yes.
Matt O'Daniel.
Yes.
Shannon Wilmot. Jason.
yes.
All right, motion carries. Discussion item number 6.3, discuss and consider St. Paul's transportation rate. Jen.
Okay, so typically what we do the transportation report in order to know what our cost per mile is, then charge that to St. Paul for the transportation that we provide to them in the morning and the afternoon. It's how we've done it for I don't know
As
how
long as I
long.
remember.
We had talked about possibly maybe changing that, still do the transportation report, obviously, so you can see what your costs are. But just, we've been so set, and I think state transportation rate is 67 cents a mile, somewhere in that area. This obviously isn't something that we do for the money, because we probably make about $1,500 to $2,000 off of St. Paul at most.
So that's total billing to St. Paul.
Total
at
billing to St. Paul for the year.
$1.15 a mile or whatever we were last year.
We discussed possibly just with a flat rate to charge them. That way St. Paul, every year, they know what is gonna be charged to them. Obviously the billing's gonna stay consistent because we charge it by, I believe it's 4 miles out, 4 miles back, so times 2, times 3. So it does, it's just that number fluctuates and consistent. I think it would just be easier around for everybody just to have just a set rate that we charge them.
To budget, to predict.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree.
And the all around.
Have you talked to Pat about this?
Run it by you guys first and let you guys know what we're thinking, and then, Brian, are you on the St. Paul's liaison group?
Yeah, you want me to talk to Pat?
No, we'll have a meeting,
Okay,
so,
that's fine.
I will talk to Pat and we'll set up a meeting, and then I believe you and Chase, and then Pat typically brings somebody, we'll talk. Last time he brought Lance off or somebody like that on their board, but
That's
yeah,
fine.
we'll talk to them about it in a committee meeting, so.
Sounds good.
And that does not need to be an action item, is that correct, Dr. Lewis?
Nope, I just wanted you guys to talk about it.
Discussion on that from anybody? Okay, agenda item 6.4, discuss, consider, and take necessary action to approve 2023-2024 budget transfer of $25K from general fund to activities fund. Yeah, we kind of touched upon this earlier, I'd say Dr. Lewis. This is counts, I mean, I think everybody knows that at the end of the year is just always in the negative given the circumstances. Watching on video, the amount of subscriptions for Huddle and streaming costs, and we raised 2 years ago, maybe we raised admission prices. I can't remember when that was.
Yeah, I think all of our conference schools, we all went up to $5 and $7, $5 for students.
Family pass prices went up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if family price, I don't know if family
No.
passes went up that time, but our admission at the board did. But yeah, so that's definitely something to consider. And even with that, even with admission at the door going up, our revenues on admissions was down quite a bit this year.
Just generally speaking, cost of put these events on than we used to.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and, we need to continue to fund it, obviously it's support for our kids, so I suppose this request kind of comes from the finance committee, really.
Well, we talked about it when we were building the budget too. That's why we increased that amount, because there's so many more things that come out of just activities.
Why do we not clean that up every year so we don't get behind?
Well, part of the budgeting process is you have to put like a set dollar amount, so we'd have to increase the amount that we budget to transfer in order to just up and end it with 0. So increased it to a point where we thought maybe we zeroed it out, but then the expenses went up some more. So the other thing you could do is you could double that in the budget and then transfer exactly what you need. So
I mean, that part would be surplus, yeah.
yeah, the part of it could be surplus, but we're kind of in a tight budget year to do that too. So we'll have to talk about that in finance committee, but this is what we budgeted to transfer last year, knowing that we would transfer it this summer.
I think over the last 2 years, we're 10 short every year, I guess, or it's building on that. I was just thinking, get it lower, clean it up a little bit closer to 0 than whatever,
Yeah.
roughly 30,000 left over, or whatever
Yeah.
that number is.
There's still, like, there's some accounts right now, or there's some, I think, no, I don't know. I don't know if there's any receipts that are due to come in and not fund yet anymore, is there, Jen? I don't think there are.
Not probably in athletics, no.
No, there's some coming in for cheer, and there's some coming to like all of the sports that helped with the golf tournament, but not anything right into that athletics. But yeah, I mean, a lot of things come out of there. It's like our subscription to Huddle and Strive and Gipper and those things, maybe not Gipper, but then the cost of our officials and the cost of hosting tournaments and, you know, not necessarily the cost of startup for new program, because like uniforms and things like that come out of the general fund. And I just went to wrestling because the girls, but the cost to enter all of our athletic teams into tournaments and things like that, that all comes out of there. And again, it's funded by sales of activity tickets and admissions.
At the beginning of the year, should we have a pretty good idea of what we're going to be spending, because we know what we're going into? So shouldn't we already have a pretty good? It's gonna cost us $17,000 to enter the kids and all of these things throughout the year. Do they not know what the price is gonna be?
Yes and no. I mean, you know what the price of someone is going to be, and then there's times throughout the year you try and find, like, you try and find a couple events to, like, for example, like some of the tournaments that wrestlers had, start dropping the girls and sending them to different tournaments. So that's a different cost there. But really, probably what hurt the most this year is activity ticket sales, and gate was down. So that really cut into that a lot. When we get budgeted figures, or when we get audited figures, you can really see where the difference is. Their expenditures were not that much different than the previous year, but the receipts were. So that's the problem. We have a pretty good idea what's going to get spent out of there, but you don't. It's hard to predict what your receipts are going to be.
It would just be easier instead of being like at the end of the year, you went from $42,000 down to 47. Well, you could say, well, that's only 5,000. Well, 5,000 in that area is not very much, but if you start at 0 every year,
Yeah.
and at the end,
that's
you get
what we
numbers
wanted.
like, oh man, there's 8,000. Well, you could see that 8,000 spelled out easier.
Yeah. The goal is to begin with a 0 every year. The goal is for that to be self-sustaining. It just has gotten harder and harder for that to be self-sustaining.
Transfer is 2023-2024 budget year. We're just seeing the 24-25 budget. So we, my opinion, we need to pass this, get it in there, and then continue the conversation with finance committee.
Right.
With our new budget, and maybe how we might want to modify this. So
Exactly.
I'll make a motion to approve 2024 budgeted transfer of $25,000 from the general fund to the activities fund.
I will say.
Thank you, Matt. Cass has been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Okay, let's vote.
Chase Craddock.
Yes.
Brian Walker.
Yes.
Matt O'Daniel.
Yes.
Shannon Homewood. Jason.
Yeah.
Jesse Foster.
Yes.
Alright, motion carries. Agenda item 6.5, discuss, consider, and take necessary action to approve engagement letter with Shaw Hole and Navarrete CPAs for the 2023-2024 audit. Dr. Lewis, we got it.
We did, actually got three, we were not anticipating, I was anticipating the one that we typically get. But in kind of the spirit, but like, in order to be, maybe a little more transparent out front, and it's not that, there was any lack of transparency, but just this is more of an upfront, projection, because before we approve things that are required, and then they would bill us additional hours for having to assist with certain things that are basically outside of the scope of a district our size to complete. So there's 3 audit letters, and one of them actually is, the potential or the possibility of, let me see if I got the right one here. The possibility of a single audit, which is for federal funds, which I think we'll avoid again. We've managed to avoid it the past couple of years, and we don't have extras this year. I talked with Brenda about that a little bit. Get to that one. So the first one I pulled up here is for the addition. I believe this one is for the amounts that are hard to find in here. Is for the additional hours that they've billed over the past few years. Just after the fact, we didn't have an engagement letter for those things. And so when I was talking with Brenda, overall, consistently, this is about what they've billed beyond the actual audits to get certain things taken care of. So maybe that's what needs to happen with the AFR, because the AFR is now school responsibility, and some suggested changes and some review of reconciliations and things like that. In Brenda's opinion, this is the but this is based on their hourly rate. So that's the first one. This is also upfront in addition or prior to the actual audit beginning. Whereas before they would bill us after the fact, now they want to be completely clear and just engage with the board for that as well. So that's not unexpected. That's what they've billed us the past 2 or 3 years for the actual audit. They don't have names, they have numbers. So I'm guessing when I'm pulling them open, which one it's going to be. This one is the length one that includes the actual audit. The number is higher because it includes the possibility of the single audit as well, which is again for federal funds.
I thought it was the other one, Dr. Lewis. Oh, wait, no, you're good. Yep, sorry.
Here at the bottom, I'm going to, if you see where my cursor is, not to exceed 31,000, but 10,000 of that would pertain to single audit procedures, which is if our expenditures of federal funds exceeds $750,000. The past couple of months, I'm working on budget. It's my opinion get to that, but I'm not the auditor coming in and looking at it. And so some of them were carryover federal funds, like in hot lunch, that we were still spending, but I think we expended most of those last year. We don't have ESSERs anymore, so I feel pretty strongly that we'll avoid this, but that would be a cost that would be in addition if we were not able to avoid the single audit. So you can take 10,000 off of that number there. That's maybe the one that's grown a little bit. I think the last time we did this, the amount was like $16,000 or $17,000 for the actual audit. It just makes sense as the years go on that that's going to go up, just like everything else has. So I suspect that we won't have to pay this 10,000. So you can assume that's going to be the 21,000 instead of 31,000. So that's what that is for. I will mention too that Brenda let me know that they've taken on a couple more districts and they want to get started a little bit earlier. And I will tell you, it is harder and harder to find groups that will do school audits anymore. They are dropping like flies. I don't think it's much fun. And this last one, the $1,300, that is to prepare the additional like student attendance testing that the Department of Education requires that the auditors do. They don't. They pull our numbers from our school, average daily attendance and average daily membership, but then they require the audit to go in and do some additional testing on that and make sure what they see matches what pulled out of our system. So that's the additional $1,300, and I think that's maybe about $50. I think it was like $1,200 or $1,250 last year. And the fees that we paid to them over the past few years, being a little bit more upfront with these different engagement letters to make sure everybody's clear on what they're for.
Thank you, Dr. Lewis.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Anybody any questions? It's pretty straightforward. I know there's a lot of content in those letters. Okay.
So basically it's the same, because it has been, they're just.
Yeah, it's just the actual audit itself is a little bit higher, but the other ones are the same.
With that, I'll make a motion to approve engagement letter with Shaw Hole and Everett CPAs for the 2023-2024 audit. Let's move to second. Thank you, Shannon. Is there any further discussion on that? Okay, let's vote.
Brian Walker.
Yes.
Matt O'Daniel.
Yes.
Shannon Wilmot. Yes. Jason Art.
Yep.
Cassie Fleming.
Yes.
Chase Carter.
Yes. All right, motion carries. Agenda item 6.6, review, discuss, and accept public comment on the following policies requiring annual affirmation. Dr. Lewis.
Yes. So it's required annually that we review these 4 policies and that we open the floor to public comment if anybody who would like to, who is here to make a public comment on these policies at this time. So we're looking at anti-harassment policy, the parental involvement policy, the dating policy, and the bullying policy.
I don't think Mr. Scribner has any comments, Dr. Lewis.
Mr. Scribner, you should have lots of comments about these. They're exciting policies.
Yeah.
No comments at this
They're
time.
legislative policies, which makes them extremely exciting.
Seeing none, no comments, I'll make a motion to. Wait, hang on a second here. Policies requiring annual review, the anti-bullying, dating, violence, and anti-harassment parental involvement policies.
I'll second that.
Thanks, Brian. You want to read that again for me, please?
Thank you, Matt and Brian. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Okay, let's vote.
Matt O'Daniel.
Yes.
Shannon Wilmot. Yes. Jason Art.
Yes.
Cassie Fleming.
Yes.
Chase Carter.
Yes.
Brian Walker.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Agenda item 6.7, one of my favorites. I'm sure, Brian, you're going to love this one too. Discuss, consider, and take necessary action to set hot lunch prices for 2024-2025.
Yes.
So this is the fun one, Dr. Lewis, where Nebraska Department of Education says we're basically making lunch too affordable, so they advise us it is necessary to raise those.
Mhm. Yes, our hot lunch fund, I don't know if you've noticed, is really pretty healthy. We're doing fine in that fund and we'd like to not raise them, but the Department of Education, yes, well, the program says that the lunch prices need to go up at least a nickel every year to show that you're making that effort. So still the cheapest lunch in town, however you look at that. But everything that you see on here is increased 5 cents over last year.
Yeah, to answer the question Cash just asked, what happens if we don't, they would hold up some of our funding that they provide us.
There's certain things that we have to do or they won't allow us to have a hot lunch program. Which means for the reimbursable meals, you wouldn't get your free and reduced lunch deposits.
But no,
I'm gonna motion that we set the hot lunch prices for the 24-25 school year. Do I have to read all those amounts? 5.05 per meal. K through 12 breakfast at $1.45, adult breakfast $2.80, K through 6 lunch $2.40, 7 through 12 lunch $2.65, and an adult lunch at $4.65.
Thank you, Cass and Shannon. It's been moved further discussion. Okay, let's vote.
Shannon Moore.
Yes.
James Miller.
Yes.
Kathy Klessner.
Yes.
Vice President.
Yes.
Brian Walker.
Yes.
Randall Daniels.
All right, motion carries. And with that, we will adjourn the July meeting at 8:15.
It looks like you have a nice hotel room there.
It's,
Oh, it's a nice window in the back.
I step out on